Welcome everyone to New Botany, and I've come down towards the railway line in Sneinton, and it's a site that is popular for square-stemmed willowherbs, and these are one of the members of the willowherb group that are actually native. Many of the ones that you'll find around cities are actually not native. That's the members of the Ciliatum group. So I want to concentrate on the habitats of a couple of plants of Epilobium tetragonum, which I have found, and they're always at the same place. They're perennial plants, but I'll tell you why tetragonum is a bit special as we look at the plants. And here's the first plant or group of plants growing at the base of a wall, and they're very different in form from the other willow herbs that you'll find growing around the city. They have narrow strap-shaped stemless leaves, and you can see those stemless leaves here. They're much narrower than you'll find in other willow herbs like American willow herb, etc. They do tend to flower a bit earlier. Here's one that's coming into bloom now, but I think the flowers are shut because it's a bit rainy and grey. And you can see there's a group here. Maybe these are part of the same plant because this species does perenniate, in other words, continue from year after year by sending small shoots from the base of the plant. So this could be a plant that is a few years old and has produced a number of new shoots this year. And the other thing about square-stemmed willow herb is it does indeed have a square stem. If you try and feel the stem, it is distinctly square. So that's one way that you can identify this species if you're not sure about it. Here's a shorter plant on its own, and you can see that it's got cuckoo spit at the top. There's going to be frog hoppers coming out of this plant, and frog hoppers do seem to like this one quite a lot. So that's the first habitat for this plant, growing at the base of walls. Very narrow leaves, square stems indicate which species you've got. And here's the second location, growing in very stony derelict land in Nottingham. And there are a large number of plants here. And they look different. They're red, the plants are smaller because of shortage of nutrients, and they're red because of stress pigments caused by lack of nutrition and maybe lack of water also. This ground would be very well drained. So just to look at it a bit closer, these plants do look different from the ones growing at the base of the wall, but I can assure you that they are the same species. They're behind in their flower production as well. You can see maybe some buds starting to appear there, but they are behind with the other plants that are greener. So that's Epilobium tetragonum, and there's another plant there. Yeah, not so red, but maybe it's got a bit more nutrition where it is there. So that's the second habitat, derelict land, and the plants are not so forward with their flowers here. The next habitat we look at will be on a church wall, where the plants will have a different form yet again. Wow, and here's a brilliant sight. A clump of square-stemmed willow herb now in flower. It's the 23rd of February, and the flowers are looking good. You can tell the plants because the leaves are very narrow and strap-shaped. Flowers are pink like most other willow herbs, and there are a number of them here, most of them in flower, and this is on some pebbly ground outside an industrial estate, and this is the kind of area where these plants often grow. and it's great to see them here. Yeah. Yeah, so this is square-stemmed willowherbs in flower with the narrow leaves and branching from the base. Always a guide to their identity. Plus, they're probably the earliest of the willowherbs coming into flower these days. Well, I'm here at St Christopher's Church and the church wall in Nottingham, and you can see that there was lots of chasmophytes growing on this wall. I think these are all small chickweed, sorry, small mouse ear or sticky mouse ear, difficult to tell. There's also lots of hairy bittercress, but the plants I've come to look for particularly are square-stemmed willowherbs, Epilobium tetragonum, which I know grow here. Well, here's the first tetragonum, and you can see it's a slender plant growing in a chasm or a crack in the top of the wall. You can tell it because it's branched at the base and has very narrow leaves which are folded up the stem. And I can show you the flowers here. Quite dark purple on this particular plant. And here's another one with not quite in flower yet, but you can tell it's very slender with the narrow leaves growing in a crack here. And next to it we've got a different species, Epilobium montanum, which you can tell by its cruciate stigma lobes, and it's got a much larger flower, paler pink. And here's a group of square-stemmed willowherbs here. They don't droop like the Epilobium montanum. And here's another group here, probably a single plant, a perennial plant, and it's just coming into flower here. Flower's just about opening. I'll try and focus in on it. Anyway, these plants are chasmophytes, and they're different from the other forms that we see growing. How do they manage to grow? Well, they're obviously short of nutrients and water. That keeps them small. But they have bacteria associated with them that help break down the nutrients in the rock and the brick and release it for the plants to grow. So that's how these chasmophytic plants manage to keep growing here. And these are mainly square-stemmed willowherbs. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.